I never imagined that such a small decision, something as simple as paying a bill quietly, would stay with me for the rest of my life. That afternoon felt ordinary in every way. The cafe was half full, filled with soft chatter and the occasional clink of cups against saucers. I had chosen a corner seat, as I usually do, just to enjoy my tea in peace. Across from me sat a young woman, nervously counting coins from her purse while glancing at the cashier again and again. There was something about her hesitation that caught my attention. Not pity, but recognition. I had been there once, long ago, trying to make ends meet, while pretending everything was fine. When the waiter placed her bill on the table, she froze for a moment, then smiled weakly as if convincing herself she could handle it. Without thinking too much, I signaled the waiter when he passed by me and asked him very quietly to add her bill to mine. He looked surprised but nodded. I made sure to keep my head down, not wanting to make a scene or embarrass her. When I paid, I left as quietly as I could, believing it would end there. I didn't want thanks, recognition, or even acknowledgement. It wasn't about being noted. It was about remembering what it felt like to need help and not ask for it. As I stepped outside, the cool air brushed against my face, and I felt a strange calmness settle within me. I thought it was just another small moment in a long life, one that would fade like so many others. But as I walked away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something about that day was different, as if an invisible thread had just been tied, connecting me to something I didn't yet understand. I had barely walked half a block when I felt it, that subtle awareness of being watched. It wasn't fear exactly, but a quiet curiosity that made me slow my steps just a little. I turned slightly, not enough to be obvious, and caught a glimpse of someone standing near the cafe window. It was a man, perhaps in his 40s, holding a phone but not using it, his eyes fixed in my direction. I quickly looked away, telling myself it was nothing, just a coincidence. After all, people look at each other all the time in a busy street. Still, something about his gaze lingered in my thoughts as I continued walking. The city moved around me as it always did, cars passing, people rushing, conversations blending into a constant hum. But I felt oddly separate from it, like I was carrying a quiet secret. Later that evening, as I sat by my window at home, the memory of that moment returned again and again. Not the act itself, but the idea that someone might have seen it. It made me slightly uncomfortable. I had never done things to be noticed, and the thought of being observed during such a private decision felt strange. Days passed, and life continued in its usual rhythm. Yet, every now and then, I found myself thinking about the young woman, wondering if she had realized what happened, if she had felt relief, or if she had simply walked away, confused. And then there was the man. Why had he been watching? Was it curiosity, coincidence, or something more? I tried to dismiss it as overthinking, but deep down I sensed that the story hadn't ended that day. It was as if something had quietly begun, unfolding beyond my view, waiting for the right moment to reveal itself. A week later, I returned to the same cafe, not because I expected anything to happen, but because routine has a way of comforting us. As I stepped inside, everything looked the same tables, the same soft lighting, the same gentle noise, but something felt different. I couldn't explain it, but there was a subtle tension in the air, like the beginning of a story you don't yet know. I ordered my tea and sat down, trying to focus on my book, but my attention kept drifting. Just as I was about to leave, the waiter approached me with an unusual expression. He handed me a small envelope, saying it had been left for me a few days ago. Confused, I took it and opened it slowly. Inside was a handwritten note, neat but deeply personal. It read, "I saw what you did that day. You thought no one noticed, but I did. And it reminded me of something I had forgotten, that kindness doesn't need an audience. Because of you, I decided to help someone else that same evening, and then someone else the next day. I don't know how far this will go, but it started with you." My hands trembled slightly as I read it again. There was no name, no signature, just those words. Suddenly, the man by the window came back to my mind, and everything made sense. He had been watching, not out of judgment, but out of quiet observation. I felt a wave of emotion I couldn't quite describe. It wasn't pride or happiness alone, but something deeper, a realization that even the smallest actions can travel farther than we imagine. I sat there for a long time, holding that note, understanding that what I thought was a simple moment had already begun to ripple outward in ways I could never have predicted. That note changed something in me, though not in a loud or dramatic way. It was subtle, like a shift in perspective that quietly alters how you see the world. I began to notice more, the small struggles people carry, the silent moments where someone hesitates, the unspoken need for kindness that often goes unnoticed. I didn't start doing anything grand or extraordinary. Instead, I continued with small, quiet actions, just as before, but now with a deeper awareness that they might matter more than I could ever measure. Sometimes I would wonder about the chain that note mentioned. Had it continued? Were there others out there, unknowingly connected through a single moment in a cafe? The thought both humbled and amazed me. One evening, as I walked past a bus stop, I saw a young man offering his seat to someone older, and I couldn't help but smile. Maybe it had nothing to do with me, or maybe it did, and that was the beauty of it. Not knowing didn't diminish its value. It made it even more meaningful. I realized then that kindness isn't about witnessing the outcome or receiving acknowledgement. It's about trusting that even the smallest act can echo in ways we'll never fully see. I still keep that note mahfuz, tucked safely between the pages of a book, not as a reminder of what I did, but of what is possible. Because that day I paid in silence, believing it would end there. But someone was watching, and because of that, something far greater began, something that continues quietly, just like that first moment, moving from one heart to another without needing to be seen. Sometimes the smallest choices carry the greatest impact. We often think our quiet actions disappear into the world, unnoticed and forgotten. But that isn't always true. Kindness has a way of traveling beyond what we can see, touching lives we may never meet. This story isn't about recognition or reward, but about the invisible connections we create through simple acts. So, the next time you choose to help, even in silence, remember, it might be the beginning of something far bigger than you ever imagined. And somewhere, someone might be watching, learning, and continuing that same kindness forward.